Reginald Edmund is a Chicago-based playwright and co-founder of the Black Lives, Black Words International Project, which is an activist theater organization that, quote, commissions, develops, and produces bold and unapologetic artistic responses to current social and political issues. Since its founding in 2015, Black Lives, Black Words has been active on 2 continents, in 3 countries, and 9 cities. And I think Reggie would agree if I said he's also one half of a power couple. His wife, Samelia Hodge Dalloway, is a director and theater activist, founding and leading organizations such as Artistic Directors of the Future or Beyond the Canon, and is also the co-founder and executive producer of Black Lives, Black Words. Of the 3 people who inspired me to think about the phenomenon of artist-led organizations, I've already been lucky enough to talk to 2. Omar Shahryar in episode 1, and Miriam Gordon-Stewart in episode 3. Reggie is actually the first of my 3 inspirations. We met in Prague when Reggie attended the Prague Summer Program for Writers, for which I was an assistant at the time in, we think, 2008. And so I've been following Black Lives, Black Words since it was just an idea that Reggie was crowdfunding through his wider circle of acquaintances, and it's been inspiring to see how much it grew in that eventful half-decade. Reggie and I talked about, among other things, the artist as griot, how the idea of community has shifted to be a more global phenomenon, about all the various performance and education projects that Black Lives, Black Words has undertaken, including how they pivoted to creating online performances as part of the Plays for the People series during the pandemic, and what it means for an artist to be, in Nina Simone's words, with the times.
I started off as an actor, and I was in the city of Houston, Texas, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities for skinny black guys with glasses and dreadlocks at the time. And so I was doing the acting thing, and I wasn't getting really a lot of opportunities or a lot of roles or whatever else. And then one day I go into this audition, and I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, I'm militant little me at the time. And I go in and I'm reading this audition, and I throw down the script in the middle of the audition and this play is terrible. This is awful. And the lady who ran the theater, she pulled me out. She pulled me out quick, fast. And she was like, okay, first off, even if this play is bad, someone has put their time and their energy and their heart and their soul into creating this work. Also, if you think you can do better, if you think you can create better, then go home and do it, right? So from there, I was like, all right, fine, lady, I'll go and do that. So I go home, I lock myself away for a week, because that's what, 21-year-olds do, when they're taking up a challenge. And so I locked myself away. I started typing away, and I wrote this really awful play about this guy who chases a girl to college and all this other stuff. And it was called A Love Story. And so I go back over there and I hand it to her, and I'm like, fine, there's my play. What now? And so she goes, all right, well, now you're going to produce it, direct it, cast it, handle lighting, handle marketing, push the play, work the box office, everything, right? I was like, oh, okay. And I got one of the biggest educations about what it means to be an artist from that experience. And for some reason, people really took to A Love Story. I think probably because the play was so bad, so many people were like, you have to see this play. But in the process of it, I fell in love with doing theater. And so they were like, so what's your next play? And so I kept creating and kept writing and kept pushing. And eventually I became the artistic director of that theater, the Silver House Theater, under the leadership of and mentorship of Miss Marie Marcel, who was my mentor. And then I was like, I really love writing plays a little bit more than the administrative side of things. Maybe I should pursue that as a career. And so from there, I jumped to Ohio University, got my MFA over there, learned the craft of playwriting a little bit more. And from there, it's just been a crazy little journey. Yeah.
What was, if I may ask, what did you not like about that play that you were auditioning with?
Ooh. I have to try to remember. I just think that the characters were like, I think they were like stilted. I think it was kind of like it was like a Tyler Perry kind of play, you know, Lord, I need a man. Send me a man my way. You know, it was one of those kinds of type of plays. And I was just like, we need to be talking about deeper shit than this. But then my first play was about, trying to find a girl to love. Yes. But since then, my work has matured.
But I'm sure if it were like really bad, they wouldn't have wanted you to produce it.
I think Miss Marie, she looked at me and saw someone who had a lot of energy and a lot of fire in them, and she was like, "How can I help this young, angry little brother become a better artist and channel that bubbling up thing that I had going on in my soul towards something that could really help the community?"
So it kind of seems like Black Lives, Black Words is kind of like trying to be Miss Marie to like lots of artists, right?
I never really thought about that, but yeah, that kind of makes sense. That really does make sense. I mean, I created Black Lives, Black Words because at this moment, it was around the same time as like the deaths of like Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, and so many others. And I was feeling really frustrated because that same feeling that I had back in my early 20s, wanted to have my voice heard. I wanted to have the opportunity to speak on the issues that were taking place around me. I began to wonder how many other artists were also feeling that exact same kind of frustration, because a painter, they can just go out and paint, a poet can just stand on a street corner and do their poem. But there really isn't an avenue for playwrights to really speak out and have their voices heard without having to go through 6 or 7 different gatekeepers. And so I really wondered how many other artists felt that same kind of frustration. So I reached out, put out a call, and we pushed forward. We made it happen. We started off in Chicago. I reached out to 5 of the major Black theaters in that community: Pegasus Theater, Congo Square, ETA Creative Arts, Black Ensemble, and Impact, to make an event take place that was really talking about the issues that were going on within our very own communities. And I had reached out to a wide gambit of writers about who wanted to take part. And people were like, yes, I'm down. Chicago is a super tribal community, especially in this theater. So the fact that we gathered these 5 Black theaters, that companies that normally don't really work together or like each other, was like historic. And we fire hazard the hell out of that theater that we took that event to. People really responded to it. There was so much love and energy, laughter and excitement around what we were doing, which was incredible. And then from there, they were like, so what's next? So me and my co-founder, Samelia Hodge Dalloway, we got even bolder. We took it to various different cities. We first went to London, to the Bush Theater. And we did the same thing, same process. And we filled up those theaters and those houses with so much love and excitement and a need to speak out and have their narratives heard and told. And then we got bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually went to the Guthrie Theater, one of the United States' biggest theaters. And we did the same process there. And we fire hazard the Guthrie Theater. I should stop saying fire hazard. We packed in the Guthrie Theater. People were like, yes, we need this. And so since that time, we've now served 2 continents, 3 countries, 9 cities. We've expanded out into doing college takeovers. Well, first I should rewind and say, so Black Lives, Black Words Showcase is a short 10-minute series of plays written by Black writers. And so our college takeover was like, we realized oftentimes in colleges and universities, predominantly white universities and colleges, they really just teach artists how to be artists, right? But they don't really teach them how to be activists and art leaders upon their own campuses and their greater communities. So that's what the college takeover aims to do. And then from there, we've also created the Our America Project, which is about providing the opportunity for POC, LGBT, Indigenous, and those of immigrant descent to really speak about what the issues are around the American dream. Is the American dream real? Do they see themselves inside of it? And then from there, also, we created an online bookstore, and also most recently with the pandemic hitting, we created the Plays for the People series, in which we provide the opportunity for artists of color to partner with other artists from around the globe to create works that specifically speak to the times that we're in and perform it virtually.
Was there anything that surprised you about the stories that were told through Black Lives, Black Words that wouldn't be told without your platform?
Yeah, I think there's a rawness and a realness and just a genuine fire inside of these works that provide artists to speak and tell their truths in ways that they normally would never have the opportunity to do in some of these other mainstream theater houses. They're able to just say the things that they might not be comfortable saying or feel like some gatekeeper out there would push against. And so I think that's one of the really big lessons that I think I've learned from this experience. And also, I think one of the most amazing things about this is that I have personally learned that you have to let those who are suffering, the communities that are struggling to have their voices heard, in order for us all to hear the truth about the real plague that is taking place within our world. And these works are totally unfiltered and providing that truth. Predominantly POC and Black artists, they feel like their voices, their narratives, they have to conform it to fit a certain group. They have to make it so that the old blue-haired ladies and their dollars feel like they're not being, you know. So they try to conform their message to appease and to cater to these white audiences versus speaking to the very communities that they're part of and hoping to really be a part of.
On your website, you have a quote by Nina Simone: "An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times."
Yeah.
Why did you choose that quote, and what does it mean to you?
Oh, that's like my personal mantra as an artist. I think, what we do as playwrights, as theater artists, as artists in general, we are the griots of our time. I have this saying that my wife gets annoyed by, which is the role of a playwright is to be both a preacher, a politician, and a prophet. All of those roles, to sum it up, all of those roles really are fighters for their communities, for their people, right? And I'm a firm believer that you can't fight for the people if you don't love the people, and you can't serve the people if you're not willing to say the things that must be heard, that tell those truths that need to be spoken. And so Nina Simone quote, I think, really fits into that and encompasses that whole philosophy that I feel an artist must take on.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that in that word reflect, it's to be a truth teller?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think another way of putting it is, I think artists are kind of like the moon. Not only do we illuminate truth, but we also reflect it. And I think that's what we as artists are supposed to do. Yeah. And that's what I hope Black Lives, Black Words does.
You talk a lot about this energy of some of these performances. So if you had to explain to someone, why is it important for us to invest in being able to perform live again? How would you do that?
what we do is a very sacred task, right? It's a very sacred moment that happens between audience and storyteller. So I think there's a real going all the way back to the ancient Greeks and to the African griots of the past. Uh, there is something that is sacred there. Uh, I think also uh, there's been this science that has been proven that when you get a large group of people into an audience, into a theater, into a small compact space, and they start witnessing a performance, all of a sudden their heartbeats and their breath all sync in a way that's not done anywhere else. It solely happens inside of a live performance, right? Of like theater, which is a strange phenomenon. I think there's something about having someone standing on a stage that goes all the way back to that primal days of one person standing in front of a campfire in that hut or in that cave and speaking those words about whatever it might be, that camp hunt or that or ancient times or how the moon and the stars got put on the sky or whatever. That is like ingrained inside of our DNA. That's not that you don't get from like a sporting event. It's something about that live performance that is so sacred that goes traces back to our very first original religion.
I thought I was going to ask the very predictable question of, well, how do you do activism through art? But then I realized that actually maybe a more poignant question would be, well, can you even have activism without art?
I don't really believe that you can. I mean, I think about the five tenets to like creating and building revolution. You have the masses, you have the activist, you have the politician, you have the philosopher that theorizes what that movement looks like and then puts it onto the page so that we can get it. But I think one of the most important aspects of activism, of revolution, of creating progressive change in this world is the artist. Because we take the things that the politician or the activist or the philosopher tries to put into place and we make it into something that the masses can really gather around and understand and be able to see their own story reflected in really exciting and bold, beautiful ways that they can't get from a law being put forward or put into some weighty book about why this moment now or whatever else. Yeah, art is crucial for revolutionary change.
Mm-hmm. Who are some of your artist activist models?
That's a good question. I think good old President Howell.
Yeah.
I think he's a badass. I think Wole Soyinka, August Wilson, Lorraine Hansberry, Billie Holiday,
Nina Simone.
and Nina Simone. Yes, of course. I think all of those people they had an understanding that to create real actionable shifts in where we are and who we are and how we move, we also have to stir that fire inside of the community's soul, in a way that I think few really comprehend. And I think that's what makes them so revolutionary and such big heroes in my eyes.
When you say the word community, do you think that the meaning of that word has shifted now that we are so connected to the internet and we have this sort of global, connection across long distances going?
Man, you're asking the tough questions.
I know. I always do that every.
I love it though. I love it. So one, I think activism originally, the thought was, oh, if you're not doing the thing that's local, that's in this small little hub right here, then your activism doesn't matter, right? But I think now more than ever, because of globalism, because of we have to recognize that we are not in this fight alone. I think it's super important that we recognize that our community is ever expanding, right? And it's not just in our little small block, and it's not in our neighborhood or in our city, but it is a global community, and we need to be serving and fighting for each and every one of us. We can't just fight for Black Lives Matter and ignore our indigenous brothers and sisters. We can't fight for our indigenous brothers and sisters, but ignore trans community or our womanism. We have to constantly be fighting for each and every single person in more ways than just merely tokenism or nepotism or just let me help out my buddy or this person who might benefit me in the long run. We also have to be looking out for every single person from the lowest part of the totem all the way to the top.
Black Lives, Black Words is an international project. That's the subtitle, right?
Yeah. We have artistic associates from all across the globe, and our mission is to bridge Black communities all across the globe to unite and to put our work and our art forward. We are predominantly an organization that fights for and provides employment opportunities for Black artists. We feel that we have a mission to take care of and to support artists of all different backgrounds. If one of us suffers, another suffers. And so we need that change happen together. And so that's how we do it.
You did a really good job pivoting during the pandemic to this online season. I saw one of the plays, I saw your playwright share. You used the medium of Zoom. Can't believe that's like now a theatrical medium. The medium of Zoom to tell this story. So I was wondering about that process, finding all of the ways that you can use that.
I think one of my greatest virtues and also probably one of my greatest vices is that I lack the ability to sit my ass down. Once again, I felt this need, this bubbling up inside of me that something needed to be done. There was too many voices that weren't being provided the opportunity to put their work forward in this time of pandemic. Everything was stalled. Broadway was stalled, the theaters were closing, the restaurants were being shut down, clubs were being whatever else. So I felt the need to put forward these narratives and provide an opportunity for artists from around the globe to work with each other in a way that I never would have been able to do because we're a grassroots organization oftentimes. So to be able to bridge our network in a way that an artist in LA can work with an artist in New York, or an artist in London can work with an artist in Minneapolis, or an artist in Nigeria can work with an artist in, so I saw this huge, amazing opportunity to really bridge the diaspora and put artists who might never have heard of each other or might never have worked with each other into the room, into the virtual room, and be able to work together. I thought it was an amazing opportunity. And then oftentimes, one of the big struggles with being a producer and being a community-driven activist and artist is oftentimes you put other people's works ahead of yourselves. So I really wanted to, for once, put my work out there at the very top of the piece, which is rideshare, which you spoke about earlier, and then build a season in which I'm bringing in some of the most exciting artists that I respect and adore into that space. So I partnered with Sim, my co-founder, and my wife, who is probably one of the most exciting theater artists of our generation, I feel. I suckered her into directing my play. She didn't know she was going to be directing the play until I told her. And she was like, "Who's directing your play?" And I was like, "Surprise, you." So it provided us an opportunity to really work together in a really different way than what we normally work in. Usually as like administrative collaborators. This time around, we got to really be partners in crime in creating a work lifted from the Zoom camera, right, and became something that was a little bit more theatrical and ambitious, and also in some ways cinematic at the same time. And we hope that would serve as kind of like a template for the rest of the works that we were producing to be able to follow and say, oh, okay, so we see this. How can we build it upon it or upgrade it or challenge that kind of a storytelling method? So I think we're one of the first people that really like push the Zoom theater boundaries, I guess. And I think probably one of the first people to actually start actually producing in the Zoom format during this time of the pandemic. It really came out of wanting to put money in the pockets of artists that I love and adore, and also provide some really exciting, groundbreaking artists the opportunity to speak to their communities.
So, this is a good time to listen to a bit of Reggie's play, Rideshare. It's a one-man show written for Zoom and performed in this case by Kamal Angelo Bolden and directed by Samelia Hodge Dalloway. Reggie will talk a little more about the play afterwards.
Fate is funny. The next rider gets in the car, jumps in the back seat and says, "Driver, we're going to the Palmer house." And I got a really important conference call, so if you can keep the radio off, I greatly appreciate it. I recognize that voice. My dark rider recognizes it too. I think I forgot to mention that I don't drive alone. There, sitting next to me, invisible to all but me, is my dark rider. He comes to me in various forms. Sometimes he's dressed in these red fabrics and these golden threads of a livery driver of the 1800s. A noose around his neck, stretching it long. And other times, he's a jitney driver from the 60s or the 70s, bullets torn through him. But he's there. Nobody can see him but me. We lock eyes. 10 generations of rage staring back at me, mouth wide open, uttering nothing. Yet I hear his whispers. His words echo in my mind. Holy shit! Oh, my man, Taurus, is that you? I guess it's safe to say that he recognizes me too. My man. I correct him. It's Marcus. Fuck my life. It's Craig. Craig. The little shit that was smiling at me the entire time I was in that small fucking conference room as they were explaining to me what my joke of a severance package looks like. Hey, Craig. Holy shit. You're an Uber driver?
The pandemic happened. I was like, just gave up my my work as a Uber driver. What Rideshare is about is this guy who is an Uber driver, and well, first off, he works in corporate America, and then eventually he loses his job, and he's forced to become an Uber driver, and he slowly descends into madness because of the people who infest his car and his space and his sanity. That was loosely based off of my own life. I really wanted to explore that, and I had this moment in this pandemic where I was wondering what to do next. So I created this work, and I just sat down, locked myself away for a couple of days, a week, and I churned it out. And I was like, all right, boom, now I have this play. And I really did kind of actually picture it for Zoom. I mean, I didn't really, I don't really know how that play would work on a stage. I'm sure it would be cool, or like having somebody in a car inside of that. But we really did create it for the Zoom platform, and now we're upgrading it to become like a short film and exploring it through that means. In like a theatrical kind of way. We were kind of shaping it together as we were going through the creation of it.
I'm wondering how you would have written it differently if you didn't think you were writing it for that medium.
If I didn't write it for Zoom, I probably would have put it into like more hands, right? I would have had more actors in the space. In this work, he becomes those characters. He interacts with those characters. He just lets you know how those characters were that come in and out of his space. I think there's something really magical about having that kind of a one actor telling that. I think it's a real testament to and a real challenge to the actor and to the director and to the playwright to create a one person narrative that has a drive behind it. If I wasn't confined to the Zoom platform, if I wasn't confined to the online platform, I think I would have probably been like, oh yeah, we can bring in people and have like him interact. Ultimately, I think that would have lost some of its fire and its heart inside of it if I had done that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes having certain limitations can actually be a source of inspiration.
Yeah, I think it also goes back towards like the griots and the ancient Greeks and how they told stories, and it was just one person on that stage. And I kind of really was fascinated by the idea of bringing it back to the very essence of storytelling.
And the actor who carried that was just incredible.
Yeah, Kamal Angelo Bolden. He's an amazing actor. He's going to be someone to watch out for. We're about to roll out another season of the Play for the People series, so I'm super excited about that. Our online bookstore is expanding even more, so if you can, check that out, folks. And then, I'm really starting to really investigate what it means to have distributional power. Who handles our distribution of our film and our television and our content? Who is our gatekeepers inside of that world? And so as I'm growing more and more in depth into film and things like that, I'm really curious and investigating how do artists of color, specifically artists of color, build more agency and power underneath them, and like what it means to create like the possibilities of creating like a Netflix or an Amazon or like a Hulu that is specifically centered towards narratives of color. And so that's something that I'm really investigating right now. And Black Lives Black Words is a super guerrilla theater. We use our networks and we have a small ragtag team that make things happen. But I'm really investigating how to put more power in the creative's hand versus into the hands of people who get paid to say no.
Yeah. Well, it's an extra challenge, I think, right now with with these online conglomerates, like Netflix and Amazon and all this. I mean, it's in a way, it's never, even as it's easier than ever to create a platform online, it's also harder than ever to compete with these big, conglomerates. It's kind of an uphill battle for artists right now who don't want to be participating in that, basically. Even YouTube,
I know.
like it's just, it seems like on the internet, it's just inevitable that eventually someone's going to try to consolidate everything,
Yeah.
You talk about revolution, and you talk about a better world. If you can kind of paint that picture for us, what that would look like, if you could envision that world.
I like to use this platform now to announce my presidency that I'm running for president. I think it just really goes back to, you can't fight for the people if you don't believe in the people and if you don't love the people. And so I think really it's a matter about just wanting to take care of each other, wanting to have the best for each other. and give each other a platform for true justice and making sure that people have their voices heard, that the people are taken care of. We eliminate the exploitation of others. I think we really just got to just be better at showing love for one another and taking care of each other, and really, yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Do you think that since 2015, when you started this project, that things have improved, or that there has been some fundamental progress made?
Yeah, I think I'm seeing a change inside of like who's running those establishments and those arts organizations. I think we're seeing a change in sometimes I think we're seeing like a shift inside of the work that is being put onto the stages. I think a part of that is because of organizations like Black Lives, Black Words, and other activists and other voices who are also working to put essential and important narratives on stage that doesn't complement white saviorism, and really just celebrating the narratives of diverse cultures and backgrounds and of all people. So I see that, but at the same time, I also see nepotism and tokenism and putting works forward that onto some of our bigger stages that are hurtful towards various different communities without consideration to that, and just merely to profit off of Black pain.
Do you want to say what some of those specifically are?
Neil LaView, Mammoth, Slave Play, Neighbors. Some of those works are real stabbing towards the pain and towards the Black experience. And I think some are towards women, or towards just, it runs the gambit, And I think I'm not saying we need to like cut all those works out, but I think we should also give equal platform and equal praise and equal illumination towards the works that are really about uplifting and celebrating, and not just our pain, but also our joy and our beauty, And I think that's something that's super essential.
Parting words, do you have any words of advice or warning to young artists who want to create in this spirit of activism?
One, I think every artist considering this should know that what they're doing, they're coming from a rich heritage and that it's a sacred task. I think that's super crucial for people to know. And then also, I think that they aren't alone in this battle. There's people that believe in them and want them to succeed, and that they should seek them out and find them and gather them around them as much as humanly possible, and just believe in yourself, and nobody else is going to believe in you quite as hard as you do. So I think that's what I would say.
Got my hair, got my head, got my brains, got my head, got my eyes, got my nose, got my mouth.
Black Lives, Black Words is, like Reggie said, planning another Plays for the People series where you can watch live plays over Zoom, so that's something to keep an eye out for no matter where you live. I've dropped the link to their website in the description. If you want to follow the On the Verge blog, YouTube channel, and podcast, go to onthevergetrilogy.com, no W's. There you will find all relevant links to the monthly newsletter, the patrons page, social media, recent uploads, etc. Instagram is also a good place to follow. I try to post some backstage previews in my stories almost every day. Here's to being on the Verge.